everybody. Welcome back to Restore to More. We're so excited for part 2 with Mark.
Yep. Hey, we guys know we've had an incredible conversation, and we are just so grateful to have him back, where we are just going to continue the conversation we had last time about how to understand building neural pathways in your brain, the powerful effects of having those habits in your relationship, sharing your feelings. We ended last week by talking about how do you communicate these things with somebody who's experienced trauma, and also somebody who doesn't know how to process what their needs are and how to healthily communicate that.
That's what works.
Okay, you first.
Okay, I have 2 questions because you just hit on like two big points.
That was great, Mark, too. Thanks for that.
That was so good. Yeah. You hit on a really good point, and I want us to talk about it. And it's, how can we create a safe place as a couple in the beginning of recovery in communicating our feelings? Because what we found is, maybe I'm feeling triggered and I want to share with him my feelings, but they're strong feelings, strong emotions. And so he may feel shame, right? Like, oh man, I'm the worst for making you feel that way. And then now he's experiencing high emotions. And as the betrayed, I'm like pissed. I'm like, how dare you have emotions? You're not allowed to have emotions. Or maybe I get defensive, and I'm like,
Right.
I need self-care. You need self-care. I'm ruined. Totally. Yeah.
What do you, and how do you encourage couples to create a safe place
To
for
talk
their,
about that.
for their emotions,
about their needs,
and
not
their
being met.
needs,
Yeah.
all of that?
Yeah, it's a really tricky path to navigate, because trauma is complex, right? Whenever we bring somebody through trauma, especially betrayal trauma, there's no way to predict how that's going to manifest, and there's no right or wrong way for that, especially a spouse's healing path to take place. And so what I find is you just start out really small. So if you're going to do a daily emotional check-in, you just make it about a couple of really basic things. I have some guys where I give them a list of I call them survival brain tendencies. Some people call them character defects, negative emotions. I give them a list, and I say, go down that list when you're doing an emotional check-in with your wife for the day, and choose the one that has been the most dominant for you today, and just tell her about it.
Yeah.
Because guys will say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to, well, get out your list. And on the other side, choose one positive off of what I call highest self attributes. Choose one of those that you've seen present in your life today. I was patient, or I was kind, and share with her about that. And that's it. That's your check-in to start. And very important, some couples have to have what I call a talking stick, right? You have the talking stick, you're sharing, you're not.
Yeah.
When I'm done, I give you the talking stick, you talk, I listen.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all it's for. It's not to fix, it's not to challenge, it's not to question, it's just to share.
Yeah.
And now, so that you don't feel like your needs are like your needs aren't being met, go ahead and schedule a time that is specifically to air your concerns and to talk about those other things. I, for example, call it a weekly partnership meeting as a couple. We're just sharing our feelings today, but no, on Sunday night in our partnership meeting, we can talk about this.
Yeah.
That way the one doesn't taint or spill over into the other, so it just all becomes one big mess. We can never talk. Every time I try to express myself, you interrupt, or every time I try to say this, you get triggered.
Yes.
So just, is just share just for the sake of sharing and being open.
Yeah.
And then save the problem solving and the other stuff for a different time.
I think that's why we talk a lot about this with couples in our different workshops that we do. And it's really about, okay, how do we have that conversation without being accusatory, and keep the I and me statements really high versus the you, right? Because even though Charity did something that made me feel a certain way, I can put the focus on, you did this, and whenever you do this, and you always do this, and this is then the always comes out, right? But it's instead of, hey, when this happened, instead of saying when this happened, when you reacted this way, or when you said this, I felt my experience, my needs were this. I think that's what I hear you saying. Focus more on
Yep. What am I feeling? What am I feeling?
Yeah,
I
that's pretty good.
often say it's not about facts when you get into this place. It's about feelings,
Mm.
right? Leave the facts for the partnership meeting. This is just about what am I feeling?
Question that I have for you is, how can a husband understand what need isn't being met? Do you have any tools that you recommend men learn or read about to understand what needs they have to start there, and then understand what isn't being met in their life currently?
Yeah. I think one of the best tools that I know for that, it's all about mindfulness,
Mm.
and we're not very good at this. One of the things that I was taught early on that I've developed a lot over the years is this concept that says you are not your brain.
Mm.
And people here, they go, "Are you crazy? What do you mean I'm not my brain? Of course I'm my brain." And it takes a minute to explain, but what it essentially means is that I, as I like to call it, an eternal being, when my brain's 6 feet under the ground with worms crawling in it, I will continue on.
Mm.
And if that's true, then I must not be my brain.
Wow.
So I have the ability to step back and to become an observer or a watcher of my own thoughts and my own emotions. I can observe and say, isn't that interesting that I'm feeling this way? Isn't that an interesting thought that just came onto the stage of my mind? This watcher ability is so crucial to this process. And one of the best ways I know to develop that is through journaling.
Mm.
This is an essential part of self-care is, do I take time to step back and to kind of assess what's been going on with me and write about it, write it down so that I can look at it. Oh, you know what? Whenever I start to get bored, I find that if I just stay in that place, it leads me to looking at porn.
Yeah.
Or right, or if I'm left home alone, right, and I hear that garage door closing as my family leaves down the street, woo, I'm like triggered, like
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
You have to have the ability to step back and look at these things instead of just being sucked into them all the time.
Mm.
So that's the best way to find out what your needs are. Start keeping a log, guys say, oh, is this a diary, Mark? Does it have a flowery cover with a little lock? I mean, no, think of it as a log if you need to. A lot of guys relate when I say become a behavioral scientist.
Mm.
You are your own behavioral scientist. You're going to step back and you're going to watch yourself.
Mm.
Like you're in a laboratory. Let me watch this guy for a minute.
Wow.
What's he feeling? What's he thinking?
Mm.
And so that's the best way I know to start to get in tune with that.
And it sounds like you're referencing Blasted again. Is that what you were doing there?
Yes, and if you want an easy way to sort of get a handle, like a more narrow confines of what I'm going through, right? Blasted. B is bored or burned out. Okay, am I bored or burned out? L, am I lonely or lustful? Is it just pure lust? H, I forgot the H, hungry.
Mm.
We forget if we go without eating for a whole long time, that's some guys, it's a big trigger. A, anxious, angry, or afraid.
Mm.
And then S is stressed.
Mm.
T is tired. That's a great place to start and say, okay, which of any of these have I been feeling today?
Mm.
Let me look at those. Let me write about them. And then we get to the part of, and what would be some simple ways for me to take care of those that's healthy?
Yeah.
I'll give you a simple one. And a lot
Yeah,
of guys,
please.
when they learn how simple this is, they kick themselves because they didn't see it all the years in addiction. So I have guys, I have my phone here. So I've got a guy, he's on his phone. He's being tempted. He's like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not gonna look at my phone. I'm not gonna look at my phone. He puts the phone down and what is the one obvious thing that he hasn't done? He's staying in the same exact environment. He's in the same chair with the same phone, with the same paint on the walls, and he has not moved.
Yeah.
One of the things you learn about with addiction or the brain and habits, they're very environmentally based.
Wow.
If I keep my environment the same, I'm not just resisting my phone, I'm resisting how the chair feels under my backside. I'm resisting the blue color of the paint on my walls. All of that is part of the addiction triggering.
Wow.
If I sit there, all of that is going to overwhelm me. So
Yes.
what do? I call it change your environment or get your butt up and moving.
I like the second one. I like that. Get your butt up and start moving.
Get out of the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And people will find just doing that, they start to feel different.
Wow.
Yeah.
And of course you do, because the brain memorizes entire environments and it's all part of the same struggle. So that's an example of, so once I'm aware of those things that are triggering me, what can I do? Well, there's a simple one. As soon as I notice I'm bored, I stand up, I walk out my door, and I go do something, right? I go for a walk, I go do dishes, and people will find that that's enough sometimes to get them, I call it getting you over the temptation hump,
Yeah.
right, up over the curve,
Yeah.
just by doing something that simple.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tools like that are really
great.
not much more complicated than that, frankly.
They're simple, but it's the repetition, the consistency, the habit changing. Those are going to create the new neural pathway that we're talking about.
Yes.
I want to change gears really quick. I feel like I could ask you a million questions. You have so much wisdom, but I kind of want to change gears because we have 3 little boys, and we are really trying to create a safe environment, unlike what we were raised in. We want to teach them healthy sexuality. We want to teach them mommy and daddy are safe.
A shame-free household is like our slogan for sure.
And I know you talk about this, so we want to know, how do you avoid sexually shaming your child when they are curious or just say it feels good?
Yeah, that's a really big question. And probably the best word that I could use in response to that, I call it normalize. We want to normalize that as much as we can. And I know I was raised in a very, I would call it religiously rigid environment growing up. And I kind of joke, and please, those listening, I'm not trying to be irreverent, but I'm just going to say it like it is. The message I got as a kid growing up is, sex is dirty, dark, and evil, so save it for someone you really care about.
Wow. Yep. That's what it is.
I know. I laugh. Well, first of all, because I feel like that was my view. Yeah. But then when you just hear that, you're just like,
Dang,
how does that make sense?
That's got to be totally wrong, but it's the internal message we all heard. This was put that way. Yeah.
It's what I heard my whole childhood. And so what I do, and I wish I'd known it with my older kids. I have 5 sons and 1 daughter. And so with my older guys, I really blew it. It was all about, clamping down and don't you dare do that. And do you know how wrong that is? But with my younger guys, I tried to normalize it and just say, you know what? These bodies are these beautiful, amazing gifts from God. The feelings that you're having are natural and normal. God gave them to you on purpose, right?
Yeah.
And do everything I can to not make you feel ashamed of your body in any way, shape, or form. Not at all. It's totally normal. It's totally natural. And then you just start to teach some really simple principles of what is healthy and appropriate and what is not. Right? That's where you start to get into that place. And we don't have time to go into all that on our podcast, but as a parent, how can you just teach that it's normal, healthy, it's a gift, it's wonderful, but because it's special and sacred, there are ways that we take care of it.
Yeah.
There are certain things that we do.
Yeah, we protect it versus it being dirty and dark and don't do it. It's now something that's worth protecting, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. One of the things I tell parents is, because they worry about their child being exposed. What if my kid sees pornography?
Sure.
What if something, on the playground at school, something happens? In my experience, often the greater damage that happens in those scenarios is not what the kid has seen, but how the parent has reacted.
Yeah.
Because a child will look at the parent and say, okay, what does this mean
Yeah.
And the way I know what it means is by watching this big person who's a god to me. How are they going to respond? That's how I'll know what this means.
Wow. Wow.
Which literally goes back to what we were talking about before. It's analyzing, what does this mean to me through your experience when we were talking about addiction. You're like, analyze the question of what does it mean to me?
And I think what you're saying is that there is and we talk about this a lot with children and not like really little kids, but even when you're in your adolescent years, that we are attracted to nakedness. There is an attraction there it's not a evil thing. And so how bad I wish somebody in my life that had just said, yeah, pornography is really attractive. And I'd be like, wait, what? Like, you know what I mean? Because it would have normalized seeing something and going, wow, that stimulated me. You know, there was something that came alive in me. Am I a horrible person because of that? And they would have said no. And they said, and at the same time, it's an inappropriate use of a God-given thing. And I would have been like, oh my gosh, can I tell you what I felt and what but instead it wasn't reacted to that way by godly men in my life who I very much respect to this day. And I think it's because they didn't understand the power of shame. That, you know, again, they were well-meaning and well-intentioned people that just didn't have the education of how to handle that, probably even about shame at all. And that's what I hear you saying. Normalize it. And I think what parents, we can't avoid our kids being exposed. Yeah. Just like you just said, we can't live our life avoiding everything that we see as men. Yeah. But what is our reaction going to be to that?
Yeah. And, you know, I talk about that sexual urge or desire that's God-given as an energy. It's an energy inside of us that's looking for a way to be expressed, that's looking for a way to be applied. And when I teach teenagers, for example, I'll say, yeah, you feel that energy, right? Like down in your groin.
Yeah.
To you guys, right? It's like so powerful. You know, maybe you're getting a reaction where you have an erection. Yeah. You know, it's a really powerful force. Don't be ashamed of it or try to fight it or press it down or deny it or any of those things. Just say, wow, I'm feeling this energy. I actually tell them it's a creative energy.
Yeah.
It's a creative force. It wants to create. And you get to decide now that you're feeling it, what do I want to do with this?
Yeah.
How do I want to apply this? And I talk to teenagers about all the ways to let that energy out that aren't sex.
Yeah.
There's many ways to express it and let it out. You get to pick.
Wow.
What do you want? Well, what's in harmony with where you see yourself going in your life? What's the ideal that you're headed for? Well, choose a way to express that energy that harmonizes with that.
Mark, that's so good. You know, we have so many friends and us having boys, right? So many of our friends have daughters and you can see it at such a young age. I mean, my 2-year-old was hitting on a girl at church who she was, I think about 18 years old. You know, I don't think it's going to work out. You know, he's 2, she's 18, but he literally went up to her and expressed she was pretty and then he liked her and he's 2.5. I mean, he literally came over to me and said, Dad, I want to go talk to her. And I said, and he looked at me like, can you be my wingman? So I held his hand and we walked over to this gal and he literally was like, you're pretty. I like you. You know what I mean? And then so you see it at a young age where girls are so attracted to being married, right? I think it's different where the guys might have the sexual drive or even the desire to express that. But these girls, they're attracted to the romance of it. And instead of saying, well, that's bad, you're too young for that. Instead, normalizing, saying, hey, this is a God-given gift. Let's teach you the appropriate way to express this. That isn't getting married at 6. You know what I mean? That isn't having a girlfriend when you're 3, right? But in a healthy way. And I love that you're normalizing it. Even right here, we're talking about it because I think even we as parents, Charity and I, need to be reminded of it through this conversation.
Well, and so take that a step further and imagine that you can tell that your kid's having, this urge or desire, or what have you. Imagine saying to them, because you have an open dialogue that's not shaming, hey man, I can tell are you kind of feeling that urge?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really am, Dad. Hey, come on, man, let's go give that energy a place to go.
Yeah.
And you go to the backyard and you throw a ball, you go do some labor, whatever it is, you actually engage them to show them
Yeah.
how to do it. Yeah, man, I know what that's like. And boy, what really works for me is to, go out and just really do some hard, some good, hard, awesome exercise, or let's go serve somebody, or,
Yeah.
just a dozen things.
Yeah.
With a girl, if you see her, those romantic, natural, wanting to connect things coming out, for example, as a dad, you could see that, and
Yeah.
you take hold of her and you turn on the music and you dance together on the living room carpet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give it a place to go. It's not meant to
So
be
good.
shut down and suppressed. It's meant to be expressed.
Yep.
But
Wow.
it's how do we express it?
Don't suppress, express it in healthy ways.
Don't suppress.
And here's the
express.
reality. As a parent, our kids will learn to express that somewhere. And if they can't do it with us because we shamed them, they will express it in secretive ways that are probably harmful for them and others.
They're going to find another way to do it. And here's the really hopeful part. If I engage with my kids in the healthy ways to express those urges, they're going to have experiences with those urges now.
Yeah.
And be successful in channeling them so they know they can do it. And they're going to love the reinforcement that happens when they do it in healthy ways. Guess what's going to happen now when they're tempted to express it in a really dark way? How's that going to feel to them?
Yeah.
Wrong. It's going to be, wait, this is not at all how I felt when I've expressed it with my mom or my dad.
Yep.
Something's wrong here.
Yep.
This doesn't feel right.
Wow.
But if you give them no experience with that other side, they don't know. All they feel is the rush, the charge.
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, this isn't right. I know how this is supposed to feel.
This is so good. I have goosebumps all over my body. I haven't heard some of the things that you've talked about. And I mean, you just gave us some incredible, incredible examples, and I'm just really excited to implement them. I am excited for our kids to know this stuff, for our listeners. I mean, like, we need to get you on TV and social media, and like everybody needs to hear this stuff because this is so good and powerful.
Mark, is there any tools you recommend for parents to learn more about the topics that you're talking about right now? Because we feel like there is just a lack of resources educating kids about healthy sexuality. If you're not doing it, I'm just going to make sure I tell you to do it for sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, there are some good resources out there that I would encourage parents, some good Christian resources, for example, to teach healthy sexuality. Would encourage them to go and look for those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably a lot of resources you can give them. One of the most powerful ways I know is modeling.
Yeah.
Model for your kids what healthy sexuality looks like.
Yeah.
It's okay to see you and your wife be demonstrative in an appropriate way, right? Holding hands, hugging, a kiss, little courtesies. Your kids need to see that you adore each other, that you cherish each other. How many people, they said, I never saw my mom and dad be affectionate.
Yeah.
Never. Right?
Yep.
So we need to model for them what that looks like, so that they know how to imitate it.
Yeah.
We need to show them we don't think sex is dirty. We don't think that it's evil or dark. We think it's a beautiful gift from God, and we always talk about it in those terms.
Yeah.
I remember with my mom, bless her heart, she had a really abusive childhood and a really dark upbringing. But man, when I was a kid and something would come on the television, for example, where a woman would like be showing a little cleavage, my mother would just go crazy. She would erupt and just say, that dirty. And she would, it was like, whoa. And so what did I learn as a kid? Well, this must be really important. Otherwise, she wouldn't be making such a big deal of it. So let me make sure I pay attention.
Wow.
It had the opposite effect of what she was trying to do.
Wow.
That's just an example. So we want to model healthy sexuality in the way we talk about it, in the way in the way that we interact as a couple. We want our kids to see this is its place. This is its God-given healthy place.
Yeah. Well, Mark, as we wrap up with this second recording here, can you tell us a little more about Reclaimed Counseling? What is it and what you guys offer there?
Yeah, so Reclaim Counseling Services, that's my website, reclaimcounselingservices.com. It's pretty simple. It's me. And so I have an intensive recovery program. It's very intensive. There's a daily focus. Guys typically come to me who've never been able to overcome this. They've tried lots of other things and nothing's worked. And they come to me to finally get out of this thing. So it's a holistic, intensive program. I work with addicts. I work with wives who have betrayal trauma, and I help the couples mend their marriage. It's kind of all together in one program. So they can go find out more about that there at my website. The other thing we're super excited about, so Steve Moore and I, who have the PBSE podcast, we're frantically trying. In fact, by the time this airs, this program should be available because we're going to launch it in mid-April. And so it's called Dare to Connect.
Okay.
And the website's is daretoconnectnow.com.
Okay.
And daretoconnectnow.com, we have been trying to figure out a way over all these years. A lot of people can't afford therapy. A lot of people aren't courageous enough yet to seek it. They don't know who to seek. How do we help all these people in as big a numbers as we can with these issues? So we're launching Dare to Connect Now. And what it's going to be is a recovery mentoring and support program where 3 times a week, Steve and I will be live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays talking to addicts, spouses, and couples.
Wow.
With a half hour every one of those 3 days about how to get out of this, how it works, what we've learned in the trenches. So It's going to be kind of it's just a really intensive mentoring and support program with two therapists who've
That's really
been
cool.
at this for decades. So we're excited to launch that, and it's very affordable, like a fraction of therapy cost.
Yeah.
And it'll be available to anyone, anywhere.
That is really awesome. I love the accessibility of that for people all over. I mean, is that going to be a worldwide thing that people can log to?
Worldwide. No matter
that is
where
amazing.
you live, you'll be able to access.
Really cool. You guys are finding a solution to that. That's what we're all about as well. Restored to More really lines up with what you guys do.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mark, so much for being on the podcast, being on the show, sharing your wisdom with us, spending your time. We are very grateful. And I know we have hit some powerful topics that are going to be life-changing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Seriously, notes on notes. I feel like I learned so much. I can't even imagine what our listeners are going to take away from these 2 episodes. So thank you so much for being with us on the show.
And thanks to the 2 of you. I mean, you're young and courageous and dynamic. I mean, young couples like you who are on your journey and have learned so much about this, you are greatly needed. You're the models for those of your age and older who need to see what healthy sexuality, healthy marriage, what does it look like? And you're doing that. So way to go.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.